One day, while at work, one of Mike's co-workers, Paul, becomes very ill and decides to go home. An hour later, after lunch is finished, Mike decides to finish Paul's work for him. However, Mike has a bad habit of chewing his nails, and as he types, the germs from Paul's keyboard transition into his mouth. Little does Mike know that by chewing his nails, he has just let a dangerous virus called measles into his body. The reason Mike was infected with the measles virus is because the virus can live on surfaces for up to 2 hours. The measles virus is the pathogen that causes the disease measles. The virus is RNA type, which means it contains ribonucleic acid. The virus originally stemmed from the rinderpress virus found in cattle. The virus infects 90% of susceptible people, and measles infects many children in modern-day society, mostly because of failure to immunize. A week later, Mike starts experiencing some flu-like symptoms. These include a cough, a fever, runny nose, and itchy, watery eyes. Hoping he'll get better, Mike decides to take a few days off to rest. Days later, Mike isn't feeling any better. In fact, he's feeling worse. He notices some white spots on the back of his throat. These are called Kolpik spots. However, Mike decides it's just tonsillitis and decides to go back to bed. 2 days later, Mike wakes up only to find red spots covering his face, back of his neck, and behind his ears. By the next day, Mike wakes up and finds that his rash has spread all over his body, from the tip of his head all the way down to the bottom of his toes. By now, Mike's temperature has reached 40 degrees Celsius.
That's great.
After a few days, Mike's rash has subsided and his fever goes down. He decides he's well enough to head into work that day. Mike, where were you, mate?
Mate, I was buggered. Got all these red spots all over me.
You must have had the measles, mate. That's what I got.
Oh, really? I didn't go to the doctor. I was feeling too sick.
Oh, mate, you should have gone to the doctor. He helped me so much.
Oh, really, mate? Shouldn't be coughing on your keyboard.
In this case, Paul acted as the host. The host is the person or organism who originally has the disease and spreads it to other organisms. In this case, the pathogen was the measles virus. A pathogen is a bacterium, virus, or any other microorganism that can cause disease. In this case, the disease was the measles. You might be wondering how Mike recovered. Well, this is because the body has 3 lines of defense. The first, second, and third line. 3 lines of defense are similar to the lines of defense in an army. The army battles for its home, which in this case is your body, and fights to kill the enemy, the pathogens. In a war, the first line of an army kills first and dies first, followed by the second and third lines. This is exactly what happens when your body becomes exposed to a pathogen. A microscopic war starts in your body, and your army is called your immune system. Inside Mike's body, his 3 lines of defense were helping him to fight his disease, which was the measles. In his case, his lines of defense won the battle. The first line of defense involves barrier defenses. Barrier meaning to keep out. Therefore, the first line of defense keeps the pathogen out of the body. There are many different places pathogens can enter our bodies through. These are the mouth, nose, eyes, ears, open wounds, example cuts, anus and genitals. Every single one of these holes in our bodies have their very own defense mechanisms. For example, the eyes defend themselves from pathogens with tears. Tears actually act as an antiseptic and are a chemical defense, as tears are a liquid substance and contain a chemical agent which fights the pathogen. The saliva in your mouth acts the same way, killing any pathogen that has entered the mouth. Another example includes the mucus of the nose and the wax of the ears. However, the pathogen sticks to the mucus or wax. It does not act as an antiseptic. If a pathogen manages to break through the first line of defense, the defense barriers, the body will use its second line of defense. The first and second line of defense are called non-specific immune responses. This means that your immune system, or your army, defends itself against any type of pathogens, not just targeting a specific type. There are 4 responses the immune system have when fighting in the second line of defense. These are the inflammatory response, followed by phagocytosis, lymph system, and cell death. The first response of the second line of defense is the inflammatory response. This occurs when you are initially sick or have cut yourself and the skin becomes inflamed. A pathogen may enter the body through this cut. When a pathogen enters a cell, it releases a chemical called histamines into the blood. This is what starts off the inflammatory response. The blood cells then become larger, giving the white blood cells more room to move through in order to get to the pathogen. And the blood's membrane, which means the outer area, becomes weaker, making it easier for white blood cells to pass through. This is what causes the inflamed look of the skin. The white blood cells, being the good guys, then fight off the pathogens. Phagocytosis is the second response in the second line of defense. Phagocytes are white blood cells which eat any pathogens that are in the bloodstream. After ingesting the pathogen, they then release enzymes called lysosomes. This kills the pathogen. The phagocytes then excrete the waste. The waste does no harm in the bloodstream. The lymph system is the third response in the second line of defense. The lymph system acts as a way of recycling the blood before it gets pumped around the body. The waste from the pathogen that the phagocyte broke down sits in the water that surrounds the cells. There also may be other pathogens in the water as well. This waste needs to be cleaned up before the blood cells can be pumped to the heart and the rest of the body. The way your internal army, your immune system, gets rid of this waste is through lymph nodes. Lymph nodes wait in your lymph vessels, the vessels the blood passes through in order to get to the heart, and contain phagocytes, which eat the waste and pathogens before the blood can be carried to your heart. The last response in the second line of defense is cell death. Cell death occurs when there is an overpowering amount of infected cells in the body. The white blood cells will form a barrier around the infected cells and commit suicide in order to seal off the pathogen, allowing new blood cells to roam through the body. This sealed off area will be shown on the body as a cyst. However, over time the body will clean itself up and the cyst will be removed. When the first 2 lines of defense have been defeated by the pathogens, the body will then turn to its third line of defense. The third line of defense includes the use of many different cells. The third line of defense is different from the first 2 lines of defense, as it is a specific immune response. This means that it targets only a specific type of pathogen. Because it is a specific response, the B cell has special receptors on it. These receptors only match certain types of antigens, which are pathogens. After collecting the pathogens that fit into its receptors, it waits until it is activated by a helper T cell. The helper T cell recognizes which bacteria is part of the body and which is not. It then tells the B cell that it can remove it. The B cell then divides into two very important cells, plasma and memory cells. Plasma cells produce special antibodies that attach to the current type of invader, which is the pathogen. Eta cells, or phagocytes, then realize which intruders are marked with the special antibodies that the plasma cell produced, and eats them. Later on, if the same intruder invades again, the memory cell remembers this and alerts the immune system, which will fight off the bacteria much more quickly.
Why Michael's so angry at me? I mean, he could have just prevented the whole ordeal by getting a vaccination, the MMR or MMRV one. It's provided in Australia and it prevents the virus, yet he just sits there all grumpy and breeding his Women's Day. I'll never know. Oh, well, Michael's angry, so angry. I don't know why. No.
You something funny as soon as the camera turns on. However, Mike assumes it's just tonsillitis. After a few days, Mike wakes up.
And... Oh, my favourite Women's Day. Bloody pool. Barbecue duck with a...